All right, off we go. Hello everyone, my name is Wally Dallenbach and I am an avid drumming enthusiast, and I've been drumming for about 40 years now, and I've always played Ludwigs, and it's a thrill. And what I'm going to do today is give you a little bit of information if you happen to be in the market for an acrylic drum set. So what I'm going to talk about today to help inform you, so you know what to look for, is shell thickness, seam, glue seam setup, and bearing edges. So I'm going to get through this quickly. I'm going to try to keep this video down to about 10 minutes. And here we go. So what I have before me today, I'm going to make it very clear right off the bat, is I'm not a Ludwig endorser, and nor am I an endorser for any of the products that I have before me. Okay? So let's make that very clear. I'm not going to talk one brand up and I'm not going to talk another brand down. And it's your job as an informed consumer to make your own choices. Okay? So with that, let's get started. What I'm going to talk about first is shell thickness. So what I have here are 3 different shells. They're all made for Ludwig, of course. And this is 1977, 78 black Vistalite, and I have a smoke Vistalite snare shell and a smoke Vistalite concert tom down here. 1978 Ludwig, made in Chicago, and I have an affinity, a love for Ludwig. Been playing it all ever since I was a little boy. And here I have first generation reissue from a company called Golden Times, and there's some visual cues in here that tells me it's from Golden Times. And this was Ludwig reissue, first generation. And what I have here, easy, is a 2015 RCI Starlight shell. Okay, 3 different shells, none of which who I am an endorser for. All right, so what we're going to talk about is shell thickness. All made in America, by the way. American made, American made, American made. I have full confidence in technology and the evolution of manufacturing, so things do get better as time progresses. Even the polymers that are used to make the science and the chemistry behind making acrylics. I'm not going to bore you because I'd be boring myself talking about polymers, and anyway, it's just a very simple, straightforward. Shell thickness, here we go. So, shouldn't really be an issue. They're acrylic shells, and 1977 Ludwig. So what I have here, veneer caliper is going to measure in thousandths. This is 253 thousandths of an inch. So it's it's a few thousandths over a quarter of an inch. Okay, the Golden Time shell, Ludwig first generation reissue, is pretty much the same, 253 thousandths, and I'm kind of measuring close to the seam. Maybe I should move just a little bit over. Yeah, it kind of fattened it up a few thousandths, but so it's about 256 thousandths, so 6 thousandths over a quarter of an inch. RCI Starlight, let's see, here's the seam. RCI Starlight measures at about 253 thousandths. So, size, thickness, shell thickness they're all a quarter of an inch, and so there you go. Now, so there's shell thickness. No big difference between the 3. 1978 Ludwig, Golden Times, made in America, and RCI Starlight, made in America. Alright, so that covers that. Alright, something very cool here, a crude graphic with the assistance of Sharpie. And so what we have here are the 3 shells, 1970s Ludwig, Golden Times, and RCI Starlight. And these represent graphically their seam setups, how they construct their seams. You'll notice different, not a similarity, but different between the 70s Ludwig and the RCI Starlights. So what you have here basically on the 1970s Ludwig is a V-groove set up for glue, and what this represents right here, this is the interior of the shell. So when you look down linearly down the seam, this is what you see. This is the inside of the shell. Okay. When you look linearly down the Golden Time shell, you have a butt joint, V-groove, butt joint. And that's a V-groove, but it's inverted. So we have a butt joint with a reinforcing tab, if you will, that runs down the shell. And with the RCI Starlight, we have an inverted, this is the exterior of the shell, and a V-groove setup. What's the difference between these two? Well, visually you can see the difference between the Golden Times and the RCA and the Ludwigs. But what's cool about this design is that the V-groove on the outside provides more strength to the joint, to the way the joint's set up. So it provides a lot more strength, and so basically visually, these are your cues that you look for when you're out shopping. This is how you can tell. Okay, visual cues. So here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some shells. I'll bring them up over to the camera and we'll take a look at them. Here's the 1977, 78-ish smoke Vistalite shell, and we'll run it down the camera. You can see that the glue is transparent. Now I have seen smoke Vistalite shells where the glue is black, so it's opaque. I kind of like the transparent myself. So there's a look down that, and we'll look linearly down. I don't know how well we can see this. You might see a little bit of light coming through the glue right there. Cool. All right. One thing note that when you hear that, you can kind of drag your fingernail in there. So I dropped one of these the other day and it just broke right down the seam. Boom. And I think this has something to do with it. Anyway, so there's that. All right. This is a black Vistalite. I'll get this over the camera and let's take a look. I'm not going to drape the camera with this, but there's my ceiling light. So, all right, so there's your glue seam. Same construction, configuration, I guess, if you will, of the V joint on the inside. And you can see that when you rub your finger in there, you can feel the sharp corners where the V groove is. Let's see, the same thing here. You see, there's, when you rub your finger in that, it kind of snags a little bit. What that tells me is you don't have 100%. Well, I shouldn't be critical. I'm not being critical, but you've kind of got a little bit of a gully in there between the surfaces, and so you really don't have 100% fill, I guess, if you will, filler material in that shell, and this is evident on this shell too. You can drag your out. Okay, you know, it's really not going to affect anything. I'm just pointing something out to you, okay? So, Golden Times. Get this over, drape this over the camera, and here we go. Golden Times first generation reissue. This is a 9x13 tom, and you can see there's the reinforcing tab that they glue on that. So, and there's about an inch space right here from the edge of that tab, or from the end of that tab to the, this is the, the resonance side, and the same here at the top. This is the batter side. You can see that that reinforcement tab stops about an inch from each side. Now if you look down the seam, let's take a, you can see the reinforcing tab in there. And with this is kind of cool, so I'm dragging my finger across this. Oh, there's a little snag right there. Now typically my experience in manufacturing, when they do have a process like this, this is probably sanded or buffed somehow to where it's smooth. So, but you could see the butt joint right in there, 90 degrees. Okay, so that is a Golden Time shell. Okay. The RCI Starlight, so 1970s Ludwig. Golden Times. There, 90-degree butt joint with a reinforcement tab. RCI Starlight, it's got a V seam, but this is the exterior of the drum, interior of the drum, exterior, interior, exterior, interior. RCI has a kind of a unique process. They don't glue their seams, they're welded. So it's not acrylic glue, it's acrylic material in that. And they have a process, it's a proprietary process, but it's a welded seam. Okay, so there's that. Let's go all the way to the batter side. Okay. And we'll look linearly down the seam. Let's see if I can give you a shot of, I don't know if you can see the inverted V joint. Let's flip it around on this side. It's kind of invisible. You really gotta look close to see it. But the really cool thing, so I'm dragging my fingernail across this, and there's not a single catch on this. And once again, with the V, like so, this adds a lot of strength to the drum, just because of the surface area that's where the filler material is, holds the drum together. Okay, now there's an important little ditty. I'm going to drape this over the camera. That is the RCI stamp, and you'll see that when you buy drums from RCI, and that lets you know this is an RCI shell. Okay, here we go. It's RCI. So there's your visual cues. Now finally, what we'll talk about are the bearing edges. If on the Ludwig, the Golden Times, and the RCI Starlight, these two basically, let me start here. Here we go. Ludwig, 1970s. Let me do a quick sketch here. This is kind of what you see when you're looking down the bearing edge of a Ludwig drum. You've got a flat, and you've got 30 degree, 45 degree, I don't know. But anyway, so you've got, it's kind of a crude bearing edge. Ludwig kind of got beat up on for these bearing edges, and I've seen some pretty rough ones on some Vistalite drums. But, you know, maybe back in those days, this was as far as technology could take them. So I don't know, it's time versus money, and if they wanted to make the investment to prep a bearing edge like they do in today's market with today's manufacturing processes. So this is basically a Ludwig style bearing edge on a Vistalite drum. Now I have seen these. They look kind of rough. You can actually see the manufacturing process on the bearing edge. It looks a little bit crude, a little bit rough, but there's ways to fix that. You can get some wet sandpaper, wet dry sandpaper, about 400 grit, and you can basically smooth that out just by, of course, take your drum apart and wet sand it. And then what you could do is basically buy an orbital hand buffer with some dish soap is a good medium. Or you can buy turtle wax. I shouldn't be mentioning any name brands. An automobile wax, or gosh, even you spray some furniture polish on it to kind of act as a medium to help. And you can make these bearing edges really shine. Okay. Now on the Golden Time shell, I recently bought this kit. It was very appealing. I got a good price on it, and this too, I was a little bit shocked, I guess if you will, when I took these things apart, and they were kind of in the same vein as 1970s Ludwigs. So meaning that you could see the manufacturing. Well, it wasn't really a finishing process to it. It was a cut surface. It was a little bit rough, and you can actually see little divots where when they took the router or whatever tool they used to cut the bearing edge, it kind of dug a divot out, and it looked like little air bubbles. And I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute, how are voids getting in this acrylic sheet? But it's not. It's a manufacturing process, and it had to do with the router speed, or maybe a dull bit. But what it did is it ripped out little tiny chunks on the bearing edge. Okay. What I did is I did the wet sandpaper, buffed it, and it really looks pretty nice now. I'm really satisfied with it. I've been playing this kit for a few months, and it's totally exciting. I love Vistalite drums. Yeah, love it. All right, so let's, I don't know if you can see, right, a little bit of sheen on that. Let's get up close. Well, let me grab the Ludwig one first. Ludwig. And, gosh, kind of a bad light. Maybe I'm going to give that up. All right, here we go. So these were kind of rough bearing edges. RCI Starlight right out of the box. Boy, it had a sheen to it. It was a high luster. It was like Christmas morning when I got this thing. So I'm very satisfied with RCI's attention to detail and their commitment to quality. Good job, RCI. So one of the things I'm going to close with is RCI seam. I didn't mention this. RCI seams, they're not glued. Maybe I did mention it. I don't know. Anyway, they're welded. So what that means is, okay, so let's talk about how vibrations go through a shell, acrylic shell. So a vibration is going to go to its weakest point, okay? The upside of the RCI Starlight shell is the fact that with this welded joint like it is, the vibration goes throughout the drum. The weak point is not the seam. So that's the benefit of having that welded seam. It's not glued, it's welded. I can't get into it, it's a proprietary process, but it's an excellent shell. Okay, so those are things to look for. Remember, it's a demonstration for informing the consumer on what to look for, and you sellers also give the courtesy to the buyer to take photographs of the seam, or at least mention, you know, here we go, this is a shot of the seam. I don't know if it's important to you, but maybe I'm not as informed as I should be, and you should be as the consumer. Okay, so those are the visual cues, those are what to look for, and the market is kind of ripe for buying drums. This video was to help you be a little bit informed about it, and good luck and happy drumming. Until next time, bye-bye.